Well, if it isn't a chopper or a private plane, it's a jet plane. It's crazy. I hit record on any of my shit, and the worst background sound sources just come into play. Whatever. All right, what do we got? Hey, remember when I may have read this? I don't think I did. I may have. All right, now the train conductor emailed in. Remember previously I read that email from that train conductor who's seen multiple Sasquatch while at work? Well, listen to this. Hey, Steve, yes, there's many rail workers that watch your show. I'm sure of it. I work for Union Pacific Railroad as a conductor. I work on the run from Roseville, California, over Donner Pass into Reno, Nevada. We also work the run from Portola, California to Roseville, where we travel down the Feather River Canyon to get back to Roseville. The trips take many, many hours. Our trips east of Nevada are very slow, about 10 miles per hour for 6 hours due to the heavy grade we climb and the size and weight of these trains. Our trains are getting up to 15,000 feet long now. So when we break down on the mountain, which happens a lot, I'm the one who has to get out and walk that 6-mile round trip in the snow or whatever weather it happens to be that time of year. It always seems to be around 2 a.m. when we have a breakdown. Yes, we travel through some beautiful areas where there's nobody for miles and miles through these mountains. So I've grown up most of my life in Northern California. So I've always been aware of Bigfoot since I was a child. I spent 12 years in the military, 4 in the Marine Corps, and 8 in the Army after I left the Marines. I was an infantryman with 2 Iraqi tours from 205 to 206, and then 207 to 208. Anyways, I worked for the railroad for 10 years now, and 8 of those years have been in the mountains. And that's why we call the Roseville to Reno run, because we climb over the mountain to Nevada. I haven't yet had any experiences with Bigfoot, but we see bear quite a bit and at least 30 deer a day on the trip. We see mountain lions and all sorts of wildlife. We've run over them all too, deer especially. So when we break down and I have to go walk my train at 2 a.m. in the wilderness miles, away from the head end of my train in the safety of the locomotive, I'm always alert, looking nonstop for whatever's out there. I probably look like a scared kid with my flashlight shining in all directions when I'm walking out there. I have many times had the feeling of being watched, but that could be from anything or anyone. Sometimes I'll come across hobos riding the train somewhere, usually pretty cool though, and just ask where we're headed off to, or if I have a cigarette, but I don't smoke. I'd be willing to bet those lifetime hobos have some stories too, no doubt. I mean, we break down in the middle of nowhere for hours and hours, so if they're a mile back in the train away from the cab, who knows what all they've seen. Anyways, I was just writing you to show you that yes, you've got railroaders watching your show. Have a good one. If I ever do have an experience, I'll tell you right away. Have a good one, Jay. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that email. And if you could, sometimes when you're hanging with the guys from work, just put on a dead serious, matter-of-fact look on your face and just say, hey, you guys ever heard of Sasquatch or seen any of these damn things at work? And see what they say. You know as well as I do, dozens of these same people in the same field you are have seen these things, and they're probably too scared shitless to talk about it openly, right? And as far as breaking down in the middle of nowhere like that, I don't understand why you don't have a 12 gauge with you. I haven't a clue why you don't. I would, especially on the train tracks, right? I mean, we all know that the trains unfortunately mow over a shit pile of game, and I'd imagine there's a lot of kills in the ground there and grizzly bears that have learned to prey on the railroads, right? So I don't understand why you don't get to pack at least a 12 gauge or a handgun. I mean, I got a gun in the truck right now. I don't go anywhere without a gun. Mostly. All right, here we go. What else do we got? All right. Hi, Steve. My name is Tom. You can use my name if you want. I hope this email finds you well. I have told one person this story, and it was to my 16-year-old nephew, and I told him recently. The guy I was hunting with doesn't know for fear of his ridicule, but this story we refer to as Hunting with the Three Stooges Day. It started out the day before opening archery season in Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania Allegheny National Forest. As we were hanging tree stands, so we don't have to haul them in on the long walk in, we like to go where no one else does, about 7 or 8 miles drive in, and then another mile or so walk in. That's where the big bucks hang out, as I'm sure you know. As we left our stands, I put a lock on mine. And why? I'll never know. The morning couldn't come quick enough because we had cameras hung and checked them after we hung our stands, revealing a 180-inch buck and several shooters. Wow, 180. That's pretty good for Pennsylvania, isn't it? That's a big buck. And hardly slept that night, no doubt. Well, morning came and we headed out. I put my key to my stand in my wallet, and leaving in the morning, I forgot I did, and then I left my wallet on the camp table, not realizing this until I was at my stand. My buddy wasn't very happy, nor was I. I told him to go to his stand, and I'll go get the key. He agreed, and when I returned to unlock my stand, the key broke off in the lock. No! It always snowballs, doesn't it? This is why I refer to hunting it with the Three Stooges day. I radioed him to tell him what had happened, and I'll go to the pine spot. It's an old dead pine that fell over, and you can walk out, and it overlooks a small clearing about 800 yards away with a natural seat about 15 feet up. As daylight broke, the woods were alive, and the regular critters, squirrels and chipmunks, etc. I was sitting for about an hour or so when I suddenly noticed that all the sounds had stopped, like someone shut off the sound, and a feeling of get out of the woods now came over me. I can't explain it. Never happened before or since. Never happened before or since, and as I exited the woods to smell a wet dog that rolled in a pile of rotting guts is the only way to explain it overcame my lungs, making it hard to breathe, and I couldn't get to my truck fast enough. The feeling I had wasn't terror, but as that I didn't belong, like I was trespassing, and I was being pushed out of that spot. I've been back to that spot, but not alone, and I do intend on going back by myself as soon as it is buck season in PA. Thank you for your great videos, and as an avid person who watches Sasquatch videos, what you stand for, what you're trying to do is awesome. I have another story from when I was 15, and I spent a week with my great aunt in northwestern Wisconsin in the mid-'80s, but that's for another time. Thanks again. Keep the great videos coming. All right, man. Thank you for that email. I'd like to know the update on that buck, if you guys got him or not. 180. That's a pretty big deer. But as far as that feeling goes, it's pretty crazy how they can instill that fear into human beings. Could you imagine if we had that skill? If we had that skill, imagine what we could do with that skill. You know, when it comes to either, one of our women, children walking home or being alone somewhere, if they could have that skill to instill doom and gloom into a potential attacker possibly, or maybe even in the forces, the military guys could possibly use that to instill absolute terror in the enemy. Who knows? But then I guess they'd be doing back and forth, right? And then it wouldn't add up to much after a while. But I don't know if I told you guys this one. I'll tell you another experience I had this year. It's like I said, I usually have 3 or 4 experiences a year, various. It was last spring, and I was going to leave my cameras running. A couple of those Sony 4K Sony Handycams, AX100 is the camera, I think. And I got some big batteries on them, so they'll videotape for like 5 hours. And I was going to set these cameras, one facing up the main rock slide on Mount Currie. All right? You can Google that up, Mount Currie, and the main biggest rock pile that goes down to a big moose meadow. Right there. I was going to put that camera up in the slide, facing up, and another camera right behind it, facing out the valley, and just let them walk away and let them record until the sun went down, and then go back the next day and grab them, and hope to God that a bear didn't go rip them up. So I had another couple with us. There's myself, Sarah, another couple, and I'm the only hunter. I'm the guy that's in the woods all the time out of us 4. And you come to a road along the Green River and you park, and then we walked about, how far is that? I don't know. Half a mile, quarter mile, half a mile from where the road ends to get there. You got to walk through, across a big gravel boulder slide, down the slide, and then across the moose meadow, and then hang a left and go up that rock pile. And as we were passing by, I looked down on the snow. It was springtime, and there's a patch of snow, and I could see pretty big, there's grizzly bear tracks right there going in and out of this patch of brush. But I was in the lead by I was ahead of those guys by maybe 15 yards, 20 yards. So whatever it was that was in those trees let me go by but when Sarah and the other couple were directly in line with it, and I remember looking back and seeing my buddy's girlfriend lunge into his arms sideways away from it. And whatever it was in there, and Sarah explained it too, they said it was like a deep growl, but they felt it in their bodies and chests. But I was about 15 meters, 20 meters past them. I just heard a little bit of something, but it didn't do anything to me. I didn't feel any alarm or anything. All three of their eyeballs were this big, and it shook them up pretty bad. I think they wanted to leave, and of course I'm like, don't worry about it, let's go. Whatever it is, if it wanted your ass, it would, and if it wouldn't have done that. So we're going to be fine. We're fine, you know. Poor my buddy's girlfriend. She was quite upset. She really didn't want to be there anymore. And Sarah, I think she was in the same boat, but she knows she's safe with me. But that was one of our more recent experiences. But I didn't get any fear instilled into me, or feelings of get the hell out of here and instilled into me at all then. And neither did them. It's almost like it was just messing with them. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Grizzly bears don't do that. Okay. Before you think it was a bear, it wasn't a bear. They don't do that. They hiss. They chop their jaws. They chop their jaws and they hiss. And they make weird little spitting sounds. They don't let out the typical movie growls and screams, okay, until you really get into it. I mean, I've been in a good handful of grizzly death, and once you get into it, you're going to get some pretty crazy growls out of them when it's game on. But there's been a lot of sightings along there. The natives, the First Nations people, told me flat out that the Sasquatch people, they had been hunting along the Green River. That'll be the south side of the Green River. They've been hunting there since time began. And over the years, over 14 years, 15 years, I've had numerous people telling me of encounters they had along the Green River right there, which is basically as the crow flies and a mile, maybe even a mile and a quarter behind McDonald's in town. And there's another one spotted walking right down that gravel slope another time as well. But there you go. It is what it is. Well, let me check the battery on this thing and see if I got enough to get one more email out.